today, because people or therapists will have this long list of all the different types of therapies that they have capacitated themselves in. But it's not just about having all the tools, but knowing how to use them. So certain people will benefit from certain types of therapies or certain types of strategies from certain therapies, but everyone should have a personalized approach. Chapter 11, the therapeutic act, not the therapeutic word. This sounds like it's gonna go a little against the dog therapy. It's a lot of dunking on dog therapy lately. Chapter 12, engage in personal therapy. Chapter 13, the therapist has many patients, the patient one therapist. I love that. I think it's a way to make people understand that therapy can be huge for some people. You can be the only person that is supporting them in their lives, even though you are seeing a lot of people and helping a lot of people. They are seeing you. You have to act that way, act accordingly. Chapter 14, the here and now. Use it, use it, use it. It's all about the present. Chapter 15, why use the here and now? Why is it all about the present? It's quite funny. Chapter 16, using the here and now. Grow rabbit ears. That sounds like it's gonna be a focus on listening. Chapter 17, search for here and now equivalents. Metaphors maybe. Chapter 18, working through issues in the here and now. Chapter 19, the here and now energizes therapy. Well, it will be the principal experience for the patient, and that goes all together. You can't just tell the patient what to do, you have to guide them, for them to find, for them to decide what to do, using their emotional responsibility, their autonomy. Chapter 48, Decisions. Avia Regia into existential bedrock. I have no idea what that means. Chapter 49, Focus on resistance to decision. Facilitating awareness by advice giving. Chapter 50. Chapter 51, Facilitating decisions, other devices. Chapter 52, Conduct therapy as a continuous session. This is ringing. I don't know if everyone's ever heard of this, but sometimes when people make a series, directors or producers in TV make a series, they make it seem as if it's a movie just broken into parts, but series have their own structure, their own mechanisms. And well, I think personally they shouldn't do that, so it's going against my opinions here. I guess therapy is gonna be different. Chapter 53, Take notes of each session. Very important to take notes. We're gonna be taking some notes here too. Chapter 54, Encourage self-monitoring. This is always helpful, and there are a lot of apps that help with self-monitoring to know what your mental state is, how it's changing over time, even the stability. Some apps will give you kind of like a ratio or a percentage of how your stability is moving around depending on your moods and associated with what types of behavior. I recommend one of those apps below. Chapter 55, When your patient weeps. Psychologist, what do you think? Should give the patients the dishes or not give them? Only therapists will understand what I'm talking about. That's a common dilemma or debate. I think you put the dishes in the middle from the start, and kind of, if the patient weeps, if they grab for them, that's fine, and if they don't, then that's fine too, but put them near them. But yet the action of giving them it can mean a lot of things. Chapter 56, Give yourself time between patients. Yeah, patients can be emotionally exhausting. I work with teenagers and they can be particularly intense. So it's always good for the therapist to always maintain their own health too, so they can help other people. Chapter 57, Express your dilemmas openly. Chapter 58, Do home visits. Oh, it's quite interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of home visits. Chapter 59, Don't take explanations too seriously. Chapter 60, Therapy accelerating devices. Oh yeah, please don't let therapy run on forever. Or if you've been in a process that has lasted more than 2, 3, 4 years, it's a little sus. Chapter 61, Therapy as a dress rehearsal for life. Chapter 62, Use the initial complaint as leverage. Chapter 63, Don't be afraid of touching your patient. Oh yeah, it's very important to make them feel, sometimes, well, it depends a lot on the patient, right? But for example, with teenagers, where I'm from, you say hi with like hugs or like a kiss on the cheek, and you should always respect the other person's boundaries and not your own, even when it's culturally adapted. You have to respect the patient's autonomy, but sometimes they want to hug, they want to hold your hand, they need the support that way. So it should be done cautiously. And I think that's what chapter 64 is going at. Never be sexual with patients, but there are always limits. You can always provide your support. I had this very lovely experience. I'm going to the psychologist myself, and one time I was having a particularly rough session with him, and he did something that I appreciated a lot, that he offered me a hug. He was like, hey, I would love to hug you if you're feeling comfortable with that. And in that moment I didn't feel comfortable with that, but I appreciated the question. I appreciated that he didn't just go for it, and I felt comforted just by the offer of it. So that was very nice. Shout out to my therapist, he's the best. Chapter 65, Look for anniversary and life stage issues. Chapter 66, Never ignore therapy anxiety. Oh, that can be information is going to help. It's always important to ask your therapist what model of therapy you are following, or what I don't know what other word to use, but like if it's CBT, if it's DBT, if it is like a mindfulness based therapy, if it's ACT, there's so many of them, psychoanalysis. You should know what's being applied to you, so you can also be prepared for that, research, understand kind of how it works, and understand, because there can always be bad therapists, that are not necessarily bad because they want to do bad, but maybe they're not doing their job as efficiently as they should be doing it. Chapter 74, sharing the shade of the shadow. Chapter 75, Freud was not always wrong. No, he wasn't. He's weirdly correct about a lot of things, even though people kind of like dislike psychoanalysis. It's taking a new newcomer like wave. There was a period of time where people were like dunking on it a lot, but not anymore, which is quite nice to see because it's a perfectly valid mode of therapy. Chapter 76, CBT is not always what it's scripted to be, or don't be afraid of the EVT bogeyman. So I don't know what EVT is, but this is true. CBT is a perfectly fine method of therapy, but again, like any tool, it is appropriate for certain cases for certain people, not necessarily the holy grail. Anytime you see something being like, oh, this is good for everyone, or everyone should do this, doubt it profusely. Chapter 77, dreams. Use them. Always keep a dream diary. I love dream diaries. I use my notes app to kind of like write them down because I have very overactive dreams usually. Chapter 78, full interpretation of a dream. Forget it. Yeah, that's true. Like, you can use a lot of the emotion that you're feeling in a dream to kind of understand what your head is said, but don't take it too hard, and it's like chemical brain soup. I saw someone describe it as one time, and I thought that was a fine way of describing it, but they can help. Chapter 79, use dreams pragmatically. Pillage and loot. It's a curious way of saying it. I wonder what the metaphor means. Chapter 80, master some dream navigational skills. Like how to take control of your dreams. I would love if they taught me that. Never jump off windows, people. Never do it. Chapter 81, learn about the patient's life from dreams. Chapter 82, pay attention to the first dream. Chapter 83, attend carefully to dreams about the therapist. Oh, I don't think I've ever had a dream about a therapist. That's interesting. Chapter 84, beware the occupational hazards. I wonder if that means just the emotional toll helping people can take sometimes. And final chapter 85, cherish the occupational privileges. I like how it ends with the bad and the good of therapy. And then we'll have the notes. So there are 260 something pages in this book. Let's check. Oh my god, this is such a big book. So it starts the numbering again here. Here is chapter 85. So